Today I'll be showing you my 20 best Dollar Tree DIYs of 2021. Okay, so for the first DIY, I'm using these 3 items from Dollar Tree. I have some shower curtain rings. Yes, very random, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. And I have 2 picture frames, one 4x6 and one 8x10. And I'm going to remove everything, including the glass. So I got the inspiration for this DIY from the new spring decor line from Michaels. It's not exactly a dupe, but it is an inspiration piece that I thought I could recreate to make it look somewhat like that. I just thought it would be really cool to try to recreate a decor piece like this. I turned the frame around on the back side, and it has a little indentation where you set the glass on and it stays. So that's what I'm using to add the shower rings to. So I'm just setting them up how I want them or the way they're gonna fit well, and then I will start hot gluing. So I would suggest, of course, using either super glue, Gorilla Glue, E6000. I'm just using hot glue for video purposes. All right, I have everything hot glued, and now what we're gonna do is paint the whole thing. So yes, I know it looks a little cray-cray, but it's gonna turn out pretty cute. What I'm gonna do is just use my antique parchment to paint the whole thing. And of course, you know, it would be easier to spray paint, but I didn't have any more white spray paint, and I did not feel like going to another store. We've been going to Home Depot a lot already as it is, just doing little DIYs around the house, and I just didn't feel like going again for the millionth time. Anyways, so I just decided to use what I have. That's what I do a lot of times. But yes, if you have spray paint and you're gonna do something like this, you can use that and use whatever color you want. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the whole thing with this antique parchment paint from Apple Barrel, and then yeah, let it dry. Once that is completely dry, I'm going to use my antique wax from Waverly and go over that frame. I'm going to use just one of my regular Walmart brushes that I have and go over the frame. And just the frame alone, because I want it to look like wood. So every time you paint something like this, like a plastic item, and you want to make it look like wood, the first thing you do is paint it white. Some type of white, because this wasn't white. It was kind of like an off-white, just to give it a good base coat, basically like a primer. And then you can go over it with a brown paint, or like this, in my case, the antique wax. I decided to use this small wooden chalkboard frame from Dollar Tree. I already had it on hand, so I decided it would look a little better than the 4x6 frame, but you could still use that if you decide to make this. All I did was cut out a spring decal from my Cricut and added it to the center of this. And now I will hot glue this on top of the little shower curtain rings. And the last thing I did was add more hot glue on the back in between the rings and the frame just for a more secure hold. Again, you can use a stronger glue than I did. For DIY number 2, I'm going to start off by using these 3 Dollar Tree items. I have a sink mat, a dry erase paddle. I was looking for a little cutting board from Dollar Tree, but I couldn't find any, so I just picked this up. And I also have some push pins. I'm going to use about 4 rows of this sink mat on the dry erase board just to make it look like a basket on here. So I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to use some black apple barrel paint in matte to paint this. I have used the sink mat quite a few times in my DIYs, and let me just tell you, I did use spray paint one time and it did not ever fully dry. So now that is why I just decide to paint it all the time, because it does fully dry with this apple barrel paint. I am going to add the push pins inside of the sink mat into the dry erase board. So I have one already in there, and I'm going to show you when I add another one right now. So once I do push it through though, I'm going to take a hammer, and on the back side, since it does stick out a little bit, I don't want to poke myself. I'm just going to hammer that down so it's not sharp. So I just grabbed a cardboard piece, that way I don't push a hole in my table. And all you have to do is add a little elbow grease, just a little bit, and push that through there. Now you can probably tell I didn't add the sink mat fully flat on the dry erase board. That way there's a little bit of space inside so I can add some flowers. Now what I'm going to do is just add a few more of these push pins, and then we will either, you can cut off the excess or you can just fold it around to the back side. If you love Dollar Tree DIYs, make sure you like and subscribe for more videos. This one, I'm using a Dollar Tree garden fence. I'm going to use some stem cutters, but you can use sharp scissors as well. So first thing I'm going to do is take off the 3 stakes at the bottom. Well, 2, because I'm only going to use half of this fence. Once I do that, I will cut it in half. I have these 3 wooden drawers from Dollar Tree. They are actually drawers. They come with a more smaller wooden box inside of them, but I already took them out. 2 of them are actually recycled. I used them for a different DIY, I think for Valentine's. And then this one that's not yet stained, it's new, so I need to stain it exactly the way the other 2 are. And to do that, I just dip my brush in water and then dip it in the glaze, the antique wax, and then go over the box. Now I'm going to hot glue the 3 wooden boxes together. To add the boxes to the garden fence, I'm going to lay the fence down, add some hot glue on there, and then add the boxes. Now this is going to be sitting on a table. I'm not going to hang it up, so hot glue is okay to use. And I'm adding more hot glue to the back. So I kept the cardboard back area part of the picture frame, and what I'm gonna do is just, recycle something, and I'm gonna cut out a piece and cover the back up with it. It's not really for more of a hold because it's not gonna help. It'll stay together just fine with the hot glue, but I'm actually using this just to give it a more finished look in the back. You can add whatever you want inside of here, any kind of flowers, any type of greenery. I have some greenery. I don't remember where it's from just because I always pick up greenery every time I go to Walmart or Hobby Lobby. And then I'm also going to add some tulips in here. These are from Amazon. They are actually a better deal than buying the single stemmed tulips from Target every year. Target has the tulips for $1, and these came with way more, better quality, longer stems for a cheaper price. My Amazon store is always linked below, and you can check it out there. Very, very simple. I have 3 round glass vases from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to be removing the sticker tags on the bottom, and I'm using some Glue Gun for that. I've also purchased this at Dollar Tree a while back. I didn't even know they had these until somebody told me. So what I like to do is just remove what I can and then apply this and let it sit for a few minutes and scrape it off. And then I'm going to wipe the glass really good with just some window cleaner. So Monday, February 15th, Texas experienced a winter storm, which I know many other states get. But for us, our state is just not capable of those freezing temperatures. So that caused rolling blackouts, which means basically that there's too much of a demand on electricity. And they try to, I guess, in rotation, turn off our electricity. But I'm not too sure how true that is. Right here, I'm basically, let me just cut my story short for a second. Right here, I am going to start placing the florals inside. I was going to add the eucalyptus, and you will see me add it in there, but I do end up removing them because I just didn't like how big they looked inside of the vases, if that makes sense. So I just use this greenery right here that I'm pulling off. I end up using, I think, a couple of those and then 2 stems of the white florals from Dollar Tree. So anyways, I'm not too sure how true that was as far as the rolling blackouts. We were supposed to go in rotations. We woke up Monday morning and we didn't have electricity for basically 24 hours. We ended up going to my mother-in-law's that next morning. We came back home because the neighbor told us the lights were back on. They ended up turning off like 5 more times. Guys, I'm literally editing right now, worried that if the electricity might go out at any second. So cutting my story short again, I'm actually going to remove these single little white flowers. Instead of doing that, I literally put in 2 whole stems because it just looks better, but you could totally do that if you want. And then I am going to stack all 3 vases on top of each other. I'm not going to glue them together, which you totally could if you are worried about them, you know, falling over and breaking. Where I'm going to set it, I'm not worried about that. You know, it's totally up to you if you want to keep changing out florals throughout the year or not, or maybe you just, you know, want to buy more vases to have different types. You know, this part's up to you. So with that being said, the moral of my story is that please pray for Texas. You know, right now at the moment, there are people going through, I mean, way worse. I am not complaining at all. I have seen so many, you know, sad and crazy events where people's pipes have been busting. I just keep praying for them and praying that, you know, ours don't bust. And it's really sad right now, and just pray for us, you guys. I'm hoping today it won't go out anymore, but honestly, I'm not even too sure. So honestly, my only complaint about all this was obviously not having power. The main thing was this, just it got super cold in here. Like, I never realized how cold it could actually get. Like, I'm talking about like in the 40s and 50s in here. So that is why the first night we ended up going to my mother-in-law's. But other than that, I have a lot to be grateful for. As far as the vases go, as you can see, I just kept playing around with it till I got it the way I wanted it to look. You can also use different colored florals as well. Using a paint stick from Home Depot. These come in a 3-pack for $1, and this is in the paint section. And I have 2 Dollar Tree drawers. So in order to get more out of this, I always use the outside of it and inside of it. So it's like a little drawer, or it says, you know, wood box. You can pull out the inside and use that block as well. So I'm going to paint my paint stick with the hazelnut paint, and I'm only doing this alone. I'm not going to add anything else to it. And now I'm going to paint the 4 wooden blocks with the moss paint. It's the chalk paint I used earlier. And I'm going to do this with some water and the paint. Now, to put this together, I am going to hot glue the first one down at the bottom, and this is going to be the one that's going to hold it all together. So what I mean is I will add some weight in here just so that way I can set it and it won't like fall over because it's lopsided. And you could also see that the little butterfly cutout won't be showing either because it's going to be turned around. And to all 4 of these, I am adding a generous amount of hot glue. And I'm only going to be putting a few stems in each one, so it's not going to be heavy at all. The only one that's going to be a little heavy is this one that I'm gluing right now. I decided to lay it down to keep it in frame for y'all. It's always kind of hard with bigger pieces like this because I'm trying to keep it in frame, but I'm also trying to make it a little easy for myself to get it right, or just to make sure it's in the middle and it's straight, it's not crooked. What I did was just measure in between, and they're all about 3 inches from each other. So now I'm going to hot glue the next one. So now that I have all 4 of them on here, I have the little pebble that I have outside. So you see, without it, it would kind of fall to the side. But now that I put the pebble inside, it stays in place. So that's what I decided to put in there for the weight. Now I'm going to use these pretty spring flowers that I got from Hobby Lobby last year. I'm just going to cut off some stems with my stem cutters, stick them in each little box, and I do have floral foam in each one. A square wreath form from Dollar Tree. Now I've actually been having this one for a really long time and I just found it. I haven't used it. So I figured this would be perfect because I had this, you know, another vision in my head on what I wanted to make. I also have two different types of nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. So I have that more darker one and that real light creamy one. So I'm going to start off with the more darker nautical rope, and as you can see there are three twisted together. So I'm gonna untangle them and I'm gonna just use one of the three. So I'm cutting small pieces of the nautical rope because it's just easier to wrap around if it's not too long. So what I'm gonna do is add hot glue at the end of that, start at the bottom of the wreath form in one corner, and I'm only gonna wrap the bottom two of the wreath form. I add a little bit more to the top just so that stays in place since it is the beginning of this. Then I just start wrapping, and if you need to add more hot glue anywhere, you can do it. Once you get to the end of that piece you're working with, just add hot glue. What I started to do toward the end of this wreath, once I started to get like in the rhythm of everything, I started to actually stick the end of that inside of the rope instead, and it was way easier. So once I was done with the outside part of this, you just wrap the remaining little area and then add hot glue to the back. So now I'm going to cover the rest of the wreath form with the lighter nautical rope. I'm going to use this family decal from Dollar Tree. When I sat it down on top of this, I really liked the way that looked. So I decided to keep that white background. And by doing that, I'm just going to cut off the end of this, like the tag area. And I'm going to place this on top of a piece of foam board. And I'm going to trace it out. I'm going to cut it with my box cutter. It's just easier that way. It's honestly easier than using scissors. Before I glued down that sign, the last thing I did with the rope was take one of the three pieces from the lighter creamy rope and covered the rest of that wreath form, so the ones that are going horizontally. And then the last thing I did was glue the sign down, or the piece of foam board down, and then I applied the family decal to the top of it. We are going to use this Dollar Tree vase. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean it really good with some glass cleaner. That way I can go outside and spray paint it. And the reason for that is so the spray paint sticks well. So while that's outside drying, I'm going to take these Dollar Tree pieces from the backgammon game, and I'm going to use the small little square pieces to spell out kitchen. So I need 7 of them, and I'm going to stain them with my antique wax. And just like in the first DIY, I'll be using a little bit of water to thin out the wax. Once those were dry, I used my Cricut to cut out some letters to spell out kitchen to add it to the pieces. So if you don't have a Cricut, then you can use some like poster stickers from Dollar Tree or Walmart, or you can use stencils, you know, whatever you have on hand to spell out whatever you need to spell out. So I was going to spell out utensils on here, but that required 8 of the little square pieces, and the 8 square pieces wouldn't have fit on the base. So I decided to use the word kitchen instead, and I still think once you see it, it came out really pretty. I just really love the matte look, especially in black paint. It just looks so pretty and modern and high-end. What we're gonna do now is go ahead and hot glue on the little square pieces, and I'm just gonna set them on here and see how they fit first, make sure they're straight, and then I'll glue them on. So the wooden spoons, I got them in a value pack from Walmart a while back, but you can also buy them at Dollar Tree for $1 each. The cutting board in the back is from Marshall's, I believe, and then I have some greenery next to it from the Target Dollar Spot a while back inside of a Hobby Lobby vase. So for this next one, I'm using 2 Dollar Tree gold baskets, and I'm also using 2 Dollar Tree wooden crates. So this is how I'm going to set it up. I'm going to add the crate at the bottom with the basket on the top. So this is just to give it some detail and just to make it look cute basically. And again, I'm using watered down wax to stain the little crates. And meanwhile, outside I have the baskets drying. I went and spray painted with that same matte black spray paint. If you enjoy Dollar Tree DIYs, make sure you are subscribed. I enjoy doing this and I appreciate every single one of y'all so much. So if you like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up because it really helps my channel out. In my last video, I talked about my nails because lately I have been doing them myself. I go back and forth. I like to do my nails on my own, and then I also, there are times I like to go to the nail salon too. So check out my Instagram because I have a story saved on my profile called Home Manicure, so you can see how easy it is to get some really inexpensive nails that will last you a couple weeks. Okay, so now that everything is dry, I'm going to connect the two with some zip ties. So this part is really easy. I'm just gonna add the zip ties to the side where the handle is on the crate, and then wrap it around the basket as well. So then I'll just cut off the excess. I didn't tighten it all the way yet because I want to go ahead and add the other one on the opposite side, and then just to make sure it's centered the way I want it, and then I'll start to tighten it. Just with those two zip ties alone, it stayed in place really well. Both of these baskets that I'm using are going to be for storage. This one in particular is going to be for these small towels. So I'm adding a decal that says towels. And then for the other one, I'm going to add fruit in that one. So I'm adding a decal that says fruit. Using 6 of these Dollar Tree drawers. I have 5 new ones here and 1 recycled one. I only found 5 when I recently went to Dollar Tree. So what I'm gonna do is make a little caddy with them, and I'm only gonna use the outside part of these drawers because I need all of them to be the same size. So that's why I picked up, well, 5, but I needed 6 large ones, and I'm showing you the difference in sizes. Of course, the smaller one inside of the drawer is, well, smaller, like I said. I'm removing everything, and then we're going to stain them with my antique wax. So I'm going to stack them on top of each other. That's why the 2 bottom ones, I didn't paint them on the inside because you're not going to see them. And I completely forgot to mention that I got the inspiration for this from Pottery Barn. So I'm going to insert a picture so you can see that. And now I'm going to add hot glue to stack them on top of each other. Now that that's glued together, I'm using these wood dowels from Dollar Tree. I'm going to place it in the center to kind of give me that same look as the Pottery Barn one. And I'm going to cut them with my stem cutters and paint them black. So once I cut those, I'm going to paint them and then come and glue them on. And then we'll also kind of measure out to see how long the dowels need to be on the sides as well. At the last minute, I decided to add these small little wood blocks to the bottom of the caddy. So I'm going to paint them black and then hot glue them to the bottom. So I'm sure you can tell the bottom 3 blocks or drawers are just for looks. It's just to give it that same look as the Pottery Barn one, but look, you can still fit your spoons, forks, you know, butter knives, measuring spoons in there. I just thought it looked really high end and it would fit way more spoons and forks. I just added a few in there. I'm using an old Dollar Tree frame, so you can just pick up any one that you want. Now I'm going to use this garden fence from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove the top area with my stem cutter. So I'll show you what part I'm going to cut. I was going to use my scissors, but I didn't really want to mess them up. So it was just easier to use the stem cutters. And then I'm going to show you how I was going to glue it on here at first and decided not to because it wasn't staying. It didn't want to stick with my hot glue. So I found another solution. So at first I was going to hot glue it to the sides of the frame, but I tried it a few times and it just would not stick. So I decided to turn it around and hot glue it in the kind of inside the little indentation of the frame. And you'll see that in a second. And it was able to stay. So now that I have both of those on each side, I'm going to take more of those giant craft sticks and I'm going to place them inside of the bottom of the frame to give it another bottom. So this is going to be another tray, just a different look. So once I do that, once I get the right size, I'll use that one as a template and cut all of them out, hot glue them on there, and then I will paint and stain them. So now I got all of those hot glued down there and I took it outside and spray painted it. I'm going to use my hazelnut chalk paint to kind of go over the crab sticks with a little bit of water. At first, I wanted it to be kind of light. It was a little bit too light, so then I did go over it a little more with my antique wax. Now I'm going to take 4 tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree and paint it with the hazelnut chalk paint. And then after this part, then I'll do the antique wax. And then the last thing to do was just to hot glue these to the bottom on the 4 corners. 3 of these 5x7 picture frames from Dollar Tree. I also have about half of a Dollar Tree garden fence because I used the other half for a previous DIY. What I'm going to do is use part of this fence for one of the frames. So I'm going to start cutting around this just to get a specific part of this to go in the frame. So depending on the look you want, you figure out what part you want to cut out. So now that I got the part I want cut out, now I'm going to just remove, well, I already removed pretty much everything, but I do need to remove the little pieces of hardware. So I'm just pulling those out with my stem cutters. And make sure when you do this, you pull out to the side, because if you pull up, it'll rip the picture frame. Now I'm going to use my white chalk paint to paint 3 picture frames like this. And I'm also going to paint that little part of the garden fence white as well. I'm going to use this traditional beige to lightly go over the frame and the garden fence. I like this color for neutral decor, but if you don't have it, you can grab any brown if you want to do the same type of look as what I'm doing, and you could just add some white paint to it. For the other 2 5x7 frames, I am adding a piece of the bath mat to each one. So it's already painted white. Now I'm just going to go over it with some of that traditional beige, and I just have the other frame and garden fence next to me so I can kind of see about how dark I need to add the brown to it. I'm going to connect the 3 frames together side by side just with my hot glue. There are a lot of different options you can do for this DIY. Maybe if you want to make a window pane out of it with 4 frames, you can either do all of the garden fence for all 4 frames or the bath mat for all 4 frames. So it's just up to you. And now I'm going to hot glue the part of the garden fence to the center frame. And the last thing I'm going to do is add hot glue to the 2 outside frames and add the bath mats to those. I really like the look of this one, and just think you can go in any direction with this depending on your home decor and different color paints that you like. I picked up a trellis from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a brown spray paint to spray paint the whole thing. While that is outside drying, I picked up a Easter basket from my Dollar Tree. They already started putting them out at my local ones. So basically all I'm going to do is remove the handle area, and all you really have to do is just pull it off. And then I'm also going to remove the rim on top, which is connected with those little pieces of white wire. Now that I have the handle and the rim of the basket removed, what I'm going to do is cut this basket in half. Now you don't need to use stem cutters, you can use scissors, which would have been easier. I don't know why I was using this. I guess I thought the basket was going to be real tough, but it wasn't. Now that I had that side cut, I'm just going to add hot glue to all the ends of the basket that I had cut through. That way it won't fall apart. Now that I have them cut in half, I'm going to paint both of them white with my white chalk paint. Now this would be better to use spray paint on, just because it would be way faster and it would probably cover a little bit better. I had to do about 3 coats with my paint. So now I'm going to take the trellis and just cut off the 2 bottom parts that would go in the ground. That way it's even. And so I have a more sturdy bottom to my basket since all of the bottom is kind of torn up. I am going to place the basket right here on top of the poster board, and I'm going to trace it, cut it out with my box cutter, and then I will hot glue it down underneath the basket. So now I'm going to use some Dollar Tree floral wire to connect the bottom big basket. And you'll see how I do that because it's just way easier to watch than for me to explain. So after I sealed that with hot glue, I'm adding the floral wire through the basket and around the trellis. And I'm just going to twist and tighten that really well. After I did that first one, I grab another piece of floral wire and I just wrap it around the basket and the trellis a few times just for extra support. And I did this to the other side as well. So now for the top basket, I'm going to make it smaller just by cutting off a few inches on each side. So on the side of the little basket, I start off in the center by adding another piece of floral wire. And I just basically do the same thing I did to the bottom basket and just wrap it around. All in all, I believe I did about 3 floral wires on each side of the smaller basket. And then I added another piece of the poster board underneath that one as well. So I added the same type of greenery that I used earlier and the magnolia florals from Dollar Tree. DIY, I have these 2 Dollar Tree items. So I have 3 Dollar Tree crates and some mini little blocks. So as you can see, these crates are painted white. I painted them already just because I've used them a few times already. I like to recycle my things. If I know I'm not going to use them again, I will keep them and do another DIY with them. I already have my crates painted white. You can paint them whatever color you choose. I'm also going to use my hazelnut chalk paint to paint the little blocks. You can also use brown paint or the antique wax from Waverly. I also have that on hand, but lately I've been really liking the hazelnut look. I'm going to use my L square ruler from Dollar Tree so I can hot glue these little blocks together. First, I'm going to do 2 pairs of 2, of course, and these are to elevate the crates. So these specific ones I'm doing right now are for the center crate, and then I'm going to do 2 pairs of 4 for the third crate. And you'll see what I mean in a minute once I start putting it all together. I got the inspiration for this little DIY from Pinterest. Now these are actually a mini version of what I saw on there. They have these outdoors. It's kind of like a tiered planter, and this DIY would also look amazing as a huge decor piece outdoors in your backyard or front yard. Okay, so I am going to add the 2 pairs on the back of the first crate. So the first crate is going to sit flat, and then these 2 are going right here where I am placing them, and I'm just going to add hot glue to add them right there. Once I do that, I will put the crate on top just like this. Now it would be awesome if you have a mini little level, and I do have one. I don't know if y'all remember seeing that in my previous videos. I have a tiny little yellow one that I got from the command strip package. The command strips are the ones that you use to hang up stuff on your wall without putting nails and holes in your wall. And I cannot find it. I use that thing all the time and I've misplaced it. So this would be perfect to use. That way once you add the second crate on top, you can make sure it's leveled. Now I'm going to place the 2 sets of 4 right here on the back of the second crate. That way the third crate is elevated just a little bit higher. And as you can see, I'm using this level. This is not the level I'm talking about that I lost. It's a tiny little one. Yeah, but it's okay. I'll find that hopefully soon. So once I hot glue those right here, then I'll add the crate. To finish the look of this tiered crate decor, I'm going to add 2 more sets of blocks. So the last ones are going to be 2 sets of 5. So I used 22 mini blocks in total. This would be pretty with any type of flowers or greenery. I just added the Dollar Tree magnolias in the center, and on the 2 outside ones I added some Target Dollar Spot greenery that I've had for a couple years. I'm using 3 Dollar Tree palettes. 2 of them are a different size than the third one. And what I'm going to do is first paint them with my antique wax. I'm going to use a watered down, I keep saying watered down paint, but I'm actually just dipping my paintbrush in the water and kind of drying it off so it's not too wet, and then dipping it into the stain or the wax. That way it doesn't go on too dark. I'm actually making a little stand, like a garden stand, I guess you could say. I got inspired off of Pinterest from the huge outdoor ones. They usually make like an outdoor plant stand, and you just put, you know, there's like different heights of plants all over it. So I kind of got inspired by that to make a smaller one. Now I'm going to dry brush some of that cashew chalk paint on top of that.
Baby, since you came around, so take a chance on us. Take a chance on us.
I'm going to take the two longer pieces and glue those together. I know this looks kind of crazy right now, but I was trying to figure out how high I wanted the smaller palette to be above the two bottom ones. So I'm going to cut 4 6-inch skewers. This is going to help me hold up the top little palette. I'm going to stick all 4 of them inside of the bottom 2 palettes, and I'll show you up close where I have them without adding hot glue to the bottoms yet. So I'm going to add hot glue to the one at the top of the dowels and set that small little palette inside of there so you can see where I have them. And now we can add hot glue on each dowel on the top first, and then I'll add hot glue on the bottom.
So long, I've been traveling alone, but now there's you. My whole world has changed.
And once I was done with that, I added the wax and that white cashew paint to those dowels or the skewers. And remember to use skewers because the skewers fit really well inside of the palettes. I don't think the dowels would fit too well in there. Six 5x7 canvases from Dollar Tree. I remove the canvases from each one of them, and now I'm just left with 6 really pretty frames. I love the color of the 5x7 frames. Now this other one is I think this was a 6x8 frame, and you see the color. I know it's kind of all messed up because I used it before, but the color of the 6x8 frames are definitely more yellow. I'm going to start off by gluing 2 frames together, and I'm going to have 2 pairs of these. So all of my DIYs today are planters that I was inspired from off of Pinterest and Instagram. Mine's are just more, some of them are more on the smaller version because a lot of the planters I've seen are like really huge planters that would be like outdoors. So I also got inspired off of YouTube. There's been many DIYers who have done this. It's really popular right now to make planters, DIY planters. So I decided to do that, and I was just inspired by many DIYers off of YouTube. Some of my favorite DIYers. Okay, so you see how I have the 2 double frames? These are gonna go at the bottom, and those 2 single ones that are left, those are gonna be glued one on each of the top ones, just like this. And I'm just gonna hot glue that at the top. So I just have them standing alone, just like this, and I'm gonna use 3 giant crab sticks, cut off the round ends. I am gonna connect these frames by gluing 3 of them right here. And that is the reason why I decided to do double frames on the bottom so they stand up well, rather than it just being single frames at the bottom. Both of these are from the Dollar Tree, so I have 100 pack of bamboo skewers and of course the 10 pack of the regular dowels. I'm gonna use the bamboo skewers because you know there's a lot of them and it's way cheaper to do it this way. So I only used about, I think, 19 on our four sides, so about 76 I believe. Now you can go different ways about this on doing this part. Now for the planter is going to be on the top where the flowers are going to go, and I want to cover all four sides with them. So I'm going to hot glue down these skewers. Now all I'm going to do is just figure out about how long they need to be and cut them very easily. They cut very easily since they're so thin with my stem cutters, and then I'm just going to hot glue them down all along on all four sides at the top right here. You can use craft sticks, you can use the giant craft sticks, the ones that I just used just now that I hot glued down. You can use anything that you can think of. So I decided to use this and I think it gave it a very unique look. So this is about how far I'm going to hot glue each one of these skewers from each other. I really love the way that looks. So now I'm just gonna do the opposite side now. All right, now for the two smaller sides, I was mistaken. I did not use 76 because on these two sides, of course, they're smaller. So I only needed one skewer to do 2 rows. So I guess about 10 of them or 9 of them on each of these smaller sides of this planter. So I'm going to cut those and then do the same thing and hot glue them on the sides. So now we're all done with the planter, and the last little detail I wanted to do was just cover up the staples right here with a Dollar Tree craft stick. At the bottom for the 2 double frames, you can see the staples. I'm not sure if you can see it right here, but you will be able to see it. So when you hot glue those 2 together, face the staples inward and hot glue the frames staple to staple, if that makes sense. That way you won't be able to see them once you completely finish the planter. You can put any type of flowers or greenery in here. What I did was pick up some Dollar Tree ferns and I folded them at the bottom and I put 3 of them in here. I'm going to do is use 2 of these trays. I know I'm showing 3, but I'm going to use 2. So I'm going to hot glue one of the trays on top of this one, and I'm just adding a strip of hot glue and then I will apply that. So this was another inspired piece, and this is basically going to be like a 2-tiered planter. So the one that's on top is a little higher and it'll stay sitting up once you see what we're going to do next. Okay, so to keep it sitting up, what I'm going to do is add some Dollar Tree craft sticks just like this, except I'm going to cut the round ends off. So I'm trying to see about how tall I need it to be, and then I will cut it and hot glue it on the side like this. and I'm going to hot glue them all along the sides on each side of the trays. Instead of making all of the crab sticks the same length, which you totally could do, I am making them all different lengths. So they're basically going up toward the top of the tray. So you see how the tray is kind of curved. I'm just gonna go along with that with the crab sticks. You could do the same thing as me, or you can, like I said, do all of them the same length.
Not concerned about how to live instead. Just open your eyes and take my advice. Stop rolling the dice and just compromise. It's the chance.
As you can see, I used 8 crab sticks, and the 4 center ones are the only ones that are the same length. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the next bottom tier tray, except of course it's touching the surface of the table, so they will be smaller. So I have the sides all done, and I think it looks really pretty and unique. I'm just removing some of that hot glue. And now what I'm going to do is paint the tray part of this white with my apple barrel white paint. And then on the sides where I added those crab sticks, I'm going to paint those with my antique wax. I added Spanish moss inside of each one of those trays, and then on the first tier I added some lavender flowers. So I just pull apart the lavender from the stem and the greenery and just stick them in there, and then I use 2 magnolia flowers on the top tier. Again, I just pull the flower from the stem and just lay them flat, and they're both from Dollar Tree. Few recycled pieces, including this Dollar Tree crate. Well, all of this is Dollar Tree. So this is a crate that I've used before. I have these 2 drawers from Dollar Tree. So each one of them come with another one inside of it. So I just have 2 of them. And then this little wooden box is actually new. I haven't used it yet. And I'm just going to remove that lid. I don't need that part for this DIY. I'm going to save it, of course. If I can reuse items, I definitely do. So I'm just going to show you real quick how I'm going to have this set up and glued together. Again, this DIY was actually a humongous piece. Just think of this, how I set it up right now, as a huge planter in your yard, in your backyard. So I've seen a huge one like this in somebody's backyard, and I thought, oh, I can make that and it'll look really cute even if it's smaller.
You wanna get to me close, why don't you do it right now? You know we met for a reason.
So this is why I used double boxes right here. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue right here and add this. And I have seen on Instagram where they sell some that are tall like this, you know, that way you won't have to do double little small ones like I'm doing, but I have not found them at my Dollar Tree yet. Again, since this is recycled, I am going to cover up those 2 boxes with more crab sticks. I use about 4 on this side. That way I can cover up that damaged area, because I think I had something hot glued there and I had to remove it, and it like marked it up. And so I am going to use 4 crab sticks on this side to cover that up, and then I will paint this whole thing. Now that I have those craft sticks on, I'm going to paint this with my hazelnut chalk paint. I really didn't like the color that it had, so what I did was start to dry brush some of my cashew chalk paint over it, and I liked it much better. I really like it much better, this color. I think it's really pretty and a little rustic looking. So what I did was add all of these Dollar Tree flowers. On the top one, it looks like one whole planter. It doesn't look like two separate ones, so I really like that idea. I have that greenery in there. On the right, I have some more greenery with some white flowers. And then the bottom one, I have two bamboo cutting boards from Dollar Tree to make an easy DIY shelf. So I'm going to show you the way I'm going to have it sitting. So I'm going to have one piece laying flat and one up like this. And I'm just turning it around so you can see better in the lighting. And you could use wood glue, but I'm going to use E6000. So either or is fine. They both have strong holds. A lot of crafters like to have E6000 on hand because, like I said, it's a strong hold and you can use it on many pieces such as plastic, wood, metal. So I'm going to apply a thin strip of it and I'm going to put the cutting board on top of it how I had it. I'm going to lean it up against my wall, and I'm also going to use my L ruler, I believe it's called. I always forget the name of it, but I've got that from Dollar Tree as well. So it can help me with making sure that everything is straight. You want to wait at least 24 hours before you hang it up, but it fully dries and cures within 72 hours. So now I have these two hooks from the garden center at Dollar Tree. These are the smaller ones. They also have a larger one. So I'm taking the two smaller ones and cleaning them well because I'm going to paint them white first, just with my white apple barrel paint and brush. But you could use spray paint, and I do have some, but it was raining at that time and I didn't want to go outside. I was just cleaning them well before painting. So I was mistaken. I did not paint them white first. I used the cashew chalk paint and I did about 3 coats. So this next part is not necessary, but I always have to add some type of support every time I glue things like this. So I have these really skinny skewers from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to add one right here with hot glue. Now you could also use E6000 right here. So once I do that, then I will add the hooks to the sides connecting both of the cutting boards. Now the hooks are just for looks. They're not serving any purpose for support. So I just really like the way it looked. And you want to use the flat side up against the wall. So I just turned it the other way around. That way it's flat up against the wall because you're going to use command strips. Remember, I'm just using hot glue right here because it's just for looks. Again, it's not for support. But what you could do is once you glue this side with hot glue, the bottom part you could use E6000 if you want, just so you're sure that this will not fall off. On here, I have a thrifted little pitcher with some Dollar Tree hydrangeas and then some more Dollar Tree flowers laying there. And just imagine having multiple shelves like this. You can have them up and down, one being on top and the other at the bottom, or having them diagonally made. So as you can see, I have 6 of the large rectangular picture frames. I removed everything, including the little hardware pieces to keep the glass in place. And you want to do that carefully because those things will rip right through the frame. You got to be careful with that. What I'm going to do is make a corner shelf. What I'm doing is adding my E6000 first in the center, as you just saw. I add a really thick line of hot glue on the ends. just like I'm doing right now. And I am taking my L ruler from Dollar Tree. That way we can make sure this is at a 90-degree angle. You don't want it to be crooked or anything. So I am gluing those two together just like this. And as you can see, I'm facing it this way. So the ugly back is facing towards the back, if that makes sense. So you want to have this side looking nice because this is the side that we are going to be showing and decorating once it's done. To make this shelf, I am using some giant craft sticks from Walmart. This is the only item on here that is not Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna use 30 craft sticks. As you can see, it came in a pack of 45, so you just need one for this corner shelf. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take my antique wax and paint all 30 of these craft sticks. I'm gonna make 3 shelves out of these craft sticks. So what I did was cut the ends off of them, and I measured them to be about 7 by 7.5 inches. Now what I'm doing now is I'm going to glue this together. This is the back side, and I'm using some Dollar Tree craft sticks to do that. So I'll just glue those on the back, and just make sure you don't glue them too close to the edges because we need those to be as flat and as the same level all around, because we're going to glue them on top of the shelf. So you'll see that in a second. I'm going to have 3 shelves, which equals 18 craft sticks. The other 12 are for the borders of the frames. I don't know where that clip went, like I said, but I just glued them. You can kind of see that in the top left hand corner. I glued them on the back of each picture frame. So there's a border on the top and bottoms of each picture frame. And you'll see that in a little bit. And look, I found the clip. So I really want y'all to see every step of this. So this is what I did to add the borders. And I just put a border on the top and bottom like I mentioned. This is the back side, so we only painted the front parts of the craft stick. So once I turn it around, here we go, you will see how nice that looks. Now I have my 3 shelves off to the side. So now what I'm going to do is take some Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks. We are going to use 48 blocks for the base of this corner shelf. So I have my 3 shelves made out of the giant craft sticks, and the bottom base of the shelf is going to be made with these tumbling tower blocks because we want the base to be sturdy and heavier than the rest because it holds the whole shelf together. And what I'm doing to glue all of this together is just alternating between my hot glue and E6000 because again, this is the base and we want it to be sturdy. So I have my 3 shelves right here already. And then I have my tumbling tower blocks ready for the base. And then I have my bamboo skewers that come in the 100 pack. I like using these because it is super cheap. You get 100 for $1. So I'm going to take 12 of these to use on the shelves. So we're just going to cut off those sharp ends of the skewers and we're going to stain all of this. So you might notice that I already said that we stained earlier. Some of the clips, they are stained, and then there are some that are not. That's just because I go back and forth in between DIYs. Like I will wait for something to dry and I put it off to the side and I'm working on a different DIY and I just go back and forth, and that's why you'll see, like I said, some clips with things painted and then some they're not. Okay, now for the fun part. We're going to assemble everything with our E6000 and hot glue. So again, I am using E6000, I believe, in each corner. And yeah, there we go. And then I will use hot glue in the center. So remember, E6000 takes about 24 hours until it's dry, but it takes 3 days to fully cure. So if you are making these DIYs, just make sure you wait the whole 24 hours until you start assembling everything, just because you don't want this to fall apart. I also try not to have the hot glue touch the E6000. The wetness of the E6000 will just remove the hot glue completely. So once the hot glue dries, it kind of just falls apart. So try not to have those touch each other. Once we're done with the base, now we're adding our very first shelf, doing the same thing as we've been doing and alternating between the E6000 and hot glue. Now we are adding our second shelf, repeating the process, and throughout this whole thing what I'm doing is always using my level. You can see it in the background at the bottom. I'm constantly using it just to make sure everything is leveled. So after adding those two pieces, it's just gotten too big to have on top of the table where I'm doing my DIY. So I brought it where I'm gonna be decorating it. And we're gonna add the third part of this the same exact way we've been doing. Now that all of that is done, we are gonna take our skewers and add them to the back. So this is gonna make it look a little more, you know, farmhouse. So you don't have to do this part, but I just thought it looked nice. So the reason for not making the shelves the exact same size as the frames is because it would just be too wobbly. Remember, these are craft sticks. So I don't wanna put something on there and then they end up falling off. So you only want to add, I'm saying about a pound on each shelf, just to be on the safe side. So I hope one of my viewers are able to make this. And if you are, like I said, Instagram me or email me. I would love to see it. I would also like to see a different style of this. Maybe more of a cottagey white type of shelf. Also, I forgot to mention, this is almost 4 feet tall. Not quite. It's 3 feet and 9 inches tall, which is perfect. It's a really good size. Very, very unique side table. I am using 4 of these picture frames. For the base and the top, I am using 2 of these Dollar Tree puzzles. So I grabbed them because it was the biggest wood piece I could find. So I'm using 2 of them and I'm gonna stain them with my antique wax. To glue this together, I am gonna make 2 sets of these triangle shapes. So as you can see, I have 2 frames right here with one of the wood pieces, and then I have the other set over there towards the back. When I add the 2 frames to make the triangular shape, you want to just hold it in place for several seconds to make sure it is dry before letting go, because you don't want it to fall. In total, I used 9 Dollar Tree wooden dowels. For right now, I'm just going to use 2 because I'm going to add them right here on the bottoms for more support so this stays sturdy. After cutting them and painting them black, now I'm going to glue them down.
People talk and tell what you wanna hear now, but they all disappeared
And to secure the top part, I'm adding the third dowel. Remember, you want your base to be heavier than the rest of the end table. So I grabbed 2 of the bamboo cutting boards from Dollar Tree and I'm gonna add them to the bottom. So I'm gonna glue them together and then I'm just gonna stain the sides because you're not gonna see the top of them. And I'm gonna add another dowel right here before adding the other piece of this side table. So here's the other side of the shelf, and you see how I turned the wood piece the opposite way because it's gonna go this way. So you want the ugly side to be facing the bottom. So the bottom side, I painted it black. So it's gonna go right here at the top. And we really need to secure the center, so I'm going to show you a lot of ways on how to do that. And you definitely want to hold this for a while until it fully dries and use your level to make sure everything is straight. So now we are going to add 2 more dowels, one right here and one on the opposite side. So now I'm going to wrap the center with this Dollar Tree yarn. Now this is actually already pretty sturdy because we have added a lot of E6000 and dowels all around it, but of course it's only connected right here on a very narrow, and then the top is, you know, wider, so we want this to be even more sturdier. So I'm wrapping this all around for extra support. You can actually leave the twine or the yarn showing like this, but I'm gonna go ahead and cover it up with 3 large or giant craft sticks from Walmart. So as you can see, I have 2 longer pieces and 1 shorter piece to fit at the top. And last but not least, I added 2 beads right here, 1 on each side. And remember, you see those 2 dowels at the bottom where the books are, 1 on each side? I did that to the opposite side as well. So you want to make sure you do that to the top part because you want this to hold up there as well. And also remember, on the top right here, I'm adding literally a pound up here. You don't want it to be heavy. Remember, the bottom is better when it is heavier and it's going to be more sturdy. So I added books right there and a little plant. Thank you for staying till the end. Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a happy new year.
I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now.